We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I am joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how you doing this evening?
I'm good. The show that nearly was not.
Yeah.
Because for all you Brits out there, our time zones have changed, and the US time zone doesn't change for another week. And every year we forget this, and every year we get our timings wrong. Probably never told this story on the pod, but I know you know it, Shane. But about probably, oh my goodness, like 10 years ago, like ages ago, when I very first started doing this job, I managed to get Fran Duffy on my show, and I never spoke to him because I was on a train home when my co-host at the time messaged me saying he's online. And I was like, what? We've got an hour. And that was my first ever time of getting it completely wrong. And we are 10 years later, and I'm still forgetting to take into account the time zone change. But yes, except for that, I'm all good. So thank you on Shane's behalf for waiting for me, as we're a little bit different timings for me. But yeah, the good old time zone. I wonder why they change at different times of the year.
Yeah, that's a good question,
got a
because we
clue.
change on Saturday night, and I would have remembered that and thought about it. I just hadn't even looked ahead to realize this was the weekend we changed. And so here we are, recording an hour later for me than usual, and so we're gonna hop into it here, so we don't end up with the show that never was. And
We do
we're gonna
have
talk about the Eagles.
breaking news though, Shane. First, sorry to
Oh, no.
there is breaking
Okay.
news, which is there is a crabby old man in the chat. And for any Patreon members, I know a lot of the Patreon guys listen to us live. Krabby's he's not been there in the Discord of late, and he was such a big part. So is this the real Krabby, or is it a Krabby in disguise? That's the question that everyone in Patreon needs to know, because we're missing the crab emojis in the Patreon of late. So I now need to know, is Krabby Old Man the real Krabby Old Man, or is he that famous in the Discord that he's got people pretending to be the original Krabby?
I still
Sorry,
drop a
if you're
cra-
not on the Patreon, you think he just stopped the show for that. But a lot of Patreon listeners are in here. It's why they're in the Patreon, essentially. So I'm now intrigued. He was on a
Yeah.
sabbatical, and that sounds like something Krabby would say as well.
He
Even
was in
better.
the chat for Chalk Talk and Birds of the Round Table last night. I have continued to drop a crab emoji every once in a while in the server on his behalf, so hopefully those are back here before too long.
Fantastic.
But all right, Jonny, let's jump in here. Obviously, lots of stuff in the Patreon. My full pass game review is there. Eric's already previewing the Packers, kind of stealing your thunder. He's also going to be recording a player spotlight video this week, and so lots of stuff there. But this is going to be more of our overview of what we saw offensively and defensively. Especially the Eagles' most dominant win of the year, and 38-13 until garbage time when they score another touchdown. This wasn't a close game in an NFL slate full of not close games. But here we are. And Jonny, would you like to talk offense or defense first this week?
I know we do this a lot, but I think we should do offense, because I feel like there was a little bit more juice to the offense this week in terms of what we can talk about. So unless you have any disagreements, I think we should start there this week.
I always want to start with offense,
Yeah,
because
you
I
do.
simply find it more interesting than defense. By the time I get to defensive film, I'm just like, I'm over it. I spend just window into my life. I spend all morning watching the offense, and then I spend the first part of the afternoon on Monday recording the pass game review, and then I'm like 7 hours in, and I turn it to the defense, and I'm just like, who cares? And so I kind of muddle through the defense, but I am always up for going offense first. So let's dive into it, and I'll lead us off here with a concept that I just thought was really fun, and it's something I would like to see the Eagles do a little bit more of. Very rarely do we see the Eagles run concepts that really stress a defense. And this one I just thought was awesome. And so if it will let me draw on the screen here. And of course, it's not going to, because that's how this show works all the time. So I'm going to reboot my little pin here. But so often what the Eagles do is they just sort of get into this static 2x2 look, and they don't really have any routes crossing the field. They don't really have anything influencing anything else. And I really loved this concept, and the result's bad, but we're going to talk about the concept. So the Eagles get to a sail or a flood concept here from 2x2. And the way that they do it is by running this receiver at the bottom of the field vertically, and they get the tight end out to the flat, and then they actually run Saquon Barkley on a corner route, which is a really cool way to get to a flood concept, because defenses are not often prepared for a running back to run this kind of a route. And then I also just like that, if that doesn't work, they have Jahan Dotson coming across on like a drag. They've got Devontae Smith running a dig. These are the types of concepts that I've talked about wanting so much, where we've got a nice 3-man route combination on the front side. If it's not open, we've got 2 routes breaking into Hurts's field of view. So I love all of that. And I'll just run it here and ignore what happens, but just watch how wide open Saquon Barkley would be if there's not a free runner on this play. Boom. Like, we're throwing the ball right here into a void if we had a pocket to step up into. And if that wasn't there, we've got a dig route we could try to throw off of the back. Like, there's just options baked into this play. Now, the reason this play doesn't work is kind of the bad thing. It seems pretty clear pre-snap that this slot corner is blitzing. He's looking inside. He's leaning inside. And this should be an alert for Jahan Dotson. Like, hey, if my guy blitzes and we're not accounting for him in the protection, I just need to get eyes on Hurts and sit down or just kind of get up the seam, looking at Hurts, whatever. Make yourself available. And you can see that Dotson just doesn't look at Hurts at all. And from the back view on this play, Hurts ends up taking a sack. But from the back view, you can see Hurts immediately look to Dotson. And he even separates. He pats the ball like he wants to throw. You can watch him right here. Hurts wants to get hot right here to Dotson. And he just can't because Dotson isn't looking. So it's a bad play by Dotson to kind of mess this up. But I think this is the coolest design I've seen from the Eagles this season. And I would just like to see more of this, these 3-man route concepts with natural things flowing behind it that you could get to if it doesn't work. I thought this play had a lot of answers baked into it, and it was really nice to see.
Yeah, that was. I think the great thing about being a film nerd like me, you, and Eric is we all got excited about a play when the Eagles took a sack, which is just like brilliant, isn't it? We're like, oh, we must show this play. But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I guess process over results over process. I wrote about this play for BGM, and I did say, like, we have to be honest with our analysis and say that the Eagles don't like taking negative plays. And when you run like 5 receivers out into a pass concept and you flood one side of the field, you want to run a cool route from Barkley. It is a little bit slower developing. So you have to be honest. It's not just like, oh, it's easy to do. Wasn't every team do everything like this because it's easy all the time? And no, it's not. You have to be honest with yourself and say, yeah, I wanted them to do that, and they took a sack. But I think if you do it once, you can't really judge the whole offense of it. I want to see more of that stuff, and then we can come back and say, right, is it working for this offense? But I thought it was quite funny that people were like, we were all like, wow, look at this play. How cool is this? And like any casual fans, like, dude, they took a sack. Like, why are you celebrating one of the only negative plays they had on offense all game? And it's hilarious that you picked it as your actual one of your 3 things you wanted to talk about. Right, I'm going to get into the big one. There is actually, Shane, not breaking news about Krabby, but like actual breaking news now. Sorry, Krabby. Not that
I saw that. Should we save it for the defensive part?
Should we save it for the defensive part?
Let's
and then while I'm talking, you can just ignore everything I say and frantically look up PFF stats, and then we can act like experts and say we've watched them.
You think I'm going to look up PFF stats?
Yeah, true. Just kidding.
Gross.
For all the Patreon guys, they'll know they can actually watch us watching, because let's be honest, I'll probably go and watch them tomorrow for Patreon, because that's the sicko that we are. So seeing as I haven't got to do a preview this week, I think my film analysis for the end of the week has just done itself. Looks like I'm doing a Michael Carter review. Good thing I spent all that time watching John Mechie, eh? That went well. But anyway, moving on. I had to talk about running game this week. And so, full disclosure, I watched this game in a bar in London, which is a Philly bar. How cool is that? Actually met one of the Patreon members. So shout out Alex, aka A Special Brew, who became the first person to meet me in the flesh from the Patreon. And I was watching this game with a fair amount of alcohol in my system, and I was following the Discord, and people kept saying, the run game's, it's different, it's unique, and they're running it 15 different concepts. And then I watched it, and I was a bit like, oh, It was different. It was fine. It wasn't this radically different run game. What it was it was not predictable. That was it. They only really ran like duo, a little bit of inside zone and outside zone, and pinball. But what they did was they ran those four concepts from different formations, different looks, different personnel. And basically what it enabled them to do was just have significantly better angles from the run game. So I'm sort of going to just talk about run game and just show run angles in general. And I'll start with play one, which is duo. Again, shout out Patreon guys. If you watched the preview I did of the Giants a couple of weeks ago, I specifically noted Tyler Nubin, 27, is horrendous at coming downhill, and the Eagles should target him. And he was horrendous coming downhill in this game. So the Eagles don't run duo very often. And in fact, barely ever, shall we say. And again, I'm not going to say like duo's a great run or outside zone's a great run. What I want to talk about is just the angles it allowed the offensive line to be at. So if you focus on the offensive lineman here, and just quickly, Shane, if you pause it for a second. For those of us that watched our analysis last week or a week ago, when Brett Tooth had no chance on an under center run because he was blocking guys that were miles away from him. Let's just focus on one guy here, Shane, so we don't get carried away. Let's just look at Landon Dickerson. What have the Eagles asked Landon Dickerson to do of late in this situation is they probably asked him to like climb a reach block to 93. So he's had to like go, let's say they're running to their right here. He's had to go all the way across the face of 93 and seal him off. Whereas here they tell him to, do you know what? It's double team up front, just go smash him. And once you've smashed him, go smash 53 because he's directly behind him. And I'm not an offensive coordinator, especially not a run game coordinator in terms of blocking. I'm much more interested in scheme. But I know that they go on and on and on about angles, about making it look easier. Look how easy this block is if you hit play now for Landon Dickerson at the start. The guy is right in front of him. It's a really easy push. The angles are all really easy. That is coming into his like field of vision. It's a nice, and guess what? He looks better. And this happened throughout the game. So as I mentioned, this is duo. The Eagles don't run duo very often. They ran duo a few times. If you go to play free, we can also see some pinball. They ran a ton of pinball. If you just pause it pre-snap for a second. First thing to note is Barkley is lined up. The screen's the annoying side. So to Hurts' right. And then he's going to run to the left, which is what commonly happens from the run game in the shotgun, which is why some people talk about it being predictable. But again, when you run pinball, Brett Tooth doesn't have to block 97. Look at Landon Dickerson's position to block 97. Again, it's easy. He's not having to climb. He's going bang, straight downhill. Look at Tyler Steen, bang, straight downhill. They're nice blocking angles. Look at Jordan Mailata's angle. Again, he's not got to reach inside. And when you hit play, you will see it play out exactly like that. Landon Dickerson hits 97 because it's an easy block for him. Brett Tooth actually gets a 58, again with a nice angle. The angles are good. But what's happened in recent weeks is that teams have figured this out. And then what's happened is they've started to basically know what's coming. And that makes the angles really tough. And it makes the offensive linemen look worse. So if you just go to play 6 now, Shane. So we've seen under center duo. We've seen pinball from shotgun. Now they're going to run pinball again. And by the way, from every look, I won't go for every run play. Again, you can read the BGN article. I go into more detail in this. But they always ran it from a different personnel, different variation. Even like the first 2 runs of the game were duo, but one had the tight end on the left, one had the tight end on the right. They did it differently. Again, if you watch this play, you expect Saquon to run to the left. You think if it's going to be pinball, it's going to be to the left. But this time they run same side shotgun, which is something Eric's been calling for, you've been calling for. And I don't really care if it's better or worse, but what it is it's unpredictable. And that was the big theme from the game this week. All of a sudden, Dallas Goedert looked good as a run blocker. Because again, look at Dallas Goedert's run block here. Look at the angle which he's blocking. He's blocking the guy directly in front of him. Look at the angle that Tyler Steen's got. He's inside the face of the defensive tackle. All of these angles are good. And no surprise, Lane Johnson's going to pull and hit the secondary, easy angle. The one who actually had the hardest day was arguably Brett Tooth, and he was really good. Cam Jurgens must have been furious this wasn't the game plan. But even that's not a bad angle. Cam Jurgens could do that with ease. So the big takeaway from the run game this week was it was unpredictable. And because it was unpredictable, because they ran different play calls, different size, different formations, different guys pulling. Sometimes it was a center pulling by himself. Sometimes it was center guard. Sometimes it was center tackle. Whoever pulled was based on who was lined up ahead of them. So when teams run pin pull, they don't go into it saying we're going to pull these 2 guys. What they'll often say is if you're uncovered, you can pull. And then they'll base it on the defensive line. And what the Eagles basically gave their offensive linemen was more freedom to pull this week, and it just made all of the angles easier. There were so many plays like this, Shane, where the offensive line angles were so much easier. So essentially, I wanted to basically make my point angles, but in reality, it was the run game in general.
Yeah, and it was a complete change of what they've been doing, and it's a lot of the things that we were talking about. I was trying to find. I had a tweet where I broke down how much of it, what their percentage of gap scheme was in this game relative to the rest of the year, and I just can't seem to find it for some reason. But I want to say it was something like 21% of their runs this year had been gap scheme, and in this, like 76% of them were or something. And I know you and I disagree about if pin pull is gap scheme or zone scheme.
Yeah, to be fair, that's just a really minor thing that no one cares about. I think based on the Eagles playbook I've seen, they call it gap scheme. So I think you're probably right, which is why it's been tracked as it. I have sometimes called it, because sometimes you run outside zone pin pull, which just looks exactly like outside zone with a puller. And then I'm like, I struggle to call outside zone pin pull a gap scheme run. But it's the kind of nerdy thing that no one actually cares about. And neither do I, in truth. But it was different to what they were doing. That's the key point.
Right. All right, well, let's keep rolling then. I am going to break down a play here that a lot of you guys know, but I had a question in the Discord. Somebody got a little lost in my pass game review last week when I was talking about RPOs, and the Eagles ran an RPO for a touchdown in this game, so I thought this would be a great time just to go back and break down what teams are looking for when they run an RPO. And so shout out to our Discord users. I can't remember which person in particular it was that was asking about it in our Football 101 chat. But this one, let's see, it was MC. So MC, this one's for you. So the first thing you're going to notice on this is the Eagles are going to send somebody into motion, and you're going to get a defensive back tracking them. And so this, not always, but pretty well indicates some sort of man coverage. And you can run RPOs against man or zone. They should work either way, but against against man, they're even better. And so what the Eagles are going to do, when you run an RPO, run pass option, it could be a run, it could be a pass. Nobody knows at the snap. You're allowing the defense to dictate. And so what the Eagles do is they're going to leave this edge rusher unblocked. And Jalen Hurts is reading this edge rusher. So the reason we leave this edge rusher unblocked is we're going to make him make a choice. Do I attack the running back or do I attack the quarterback? And no matter what he does, you're going to make him wrong and eliminate him from the play without having to block him. This is something great to do against guys like Micah Parsons, who the Eagles are going to see in 2 weeks. Tough guy to block, just don't block him and make him wrong with the read. And so if he comes upfield, well, you hand the ball off, and now we've got 5 linemen blocking 4 guys, and so we can get a good double team. We can get up to the second level. Right? If he gets upfield at the running back, we can pull it, and now he's unblocked, and we've taken him out of the play anyways, and we've got Jalen Hurts running outside. Now, I like to call this a slide RPO because it's coupled with Dallas Goedert on this little slide or scrape route. And so when you pair it with that, what you're reading is the defensive end, whether he goes over the top of or underneath this tight end. It makes the read a little bit easier. It generates more traffic. And so on this particular instance, he is going to go over the top of the tight end, which tells Jalen Hurts to pull the ball. So right here, we see he's going over the top. Hurts pulls it. Now what you essentially have is Hurts running out to the flat, and you've got a tight end running out to the flat. And so it's sort of like a different way to get into a triple option. You have Hurts with the potential to cut this upfield and run. You have the potential to throw this ball to Dallas Goedert as kind of the pitch man, which is what's going to end up happening on this play. And so you see that the guy that's diving down on Goedert sort of gets tangled up with Devontae Smith, and so this becomes an easy touchdown. But let's just pretend that didn't happen. If this guy comes through clean, he's still in a really difficult position of choosing to stay with the tight end, in which case Hurts can run, or he's got to go attack Hurts, and then you get this little pass for a touchdown. Now, some of the reasons that RPOs are tough nowadays is the ineligible man downfield penalty. If this becomes a pass, you can't have an offensive lineman more than 1 yard past the line of scrimmage. not engaged in a block. That's the key part, because you can watch this and some of these guys get downfield, right? Tyler Steen is like 3 yards downfield at the point that this pass is thrown, but he's been engaged with a defender the whole time. That makes it legal. So offensive line has to be disciplined. You can't free release to the second level in case it becomes a pass play. So it can make your run blocking a little worse. It can allow the defense to dictate things to you in terms of whether you run or pass. But RPOs do open up a lot of things for you. And there's counters defenses can have, and I won't get into scrape exchanges and things like that because I don't have film from this game for it. But there's things that defenses can do where they will attack the running back and they've got a linebacker filling around behind to get the quarterback. And so there's games that the defense can play with that. But that's kind of the basics of RPOs. And since there was a touchdown off of one this week and there was a question in the Discord last week, I wanted to take the chance just to break down how that works. So that is RPO slides, kind of there in one play.
Really good stuff. Bit of a football 101 as well as this week. And I think Hurts has normally been historically pretty good at them. And they also make things easy for the quarterback. We talk about defining reads. They also help massively if you're mobile. So if you've got a mobile quarterback, why would you not want to run them too often? Right, I'm almost tempted, Shane, to combine my second and... No, I won't. I'll keep my third point separate. I'll ignore the individual here. I just want to talk about middle of the field throws this week. So there's always been a very strange thing with Jalen Hurts throwing to the middle of the field where, and I'm not going to go through his historical numbers, but long story short, his numbers historically are really good when he throws to the middle of the field. The problem is he basically never throws to the middle of the field. However, the offense also doesn't design passing concepts to attack the middle of the field. And people can say, oh yeah, but they sometimes have players in the middle of the field. But I'm like, yeah, they're like backside digs. They're not plays that are deliberately designed to go to the middle of the field. Well, this week, Shane, guess what? They did design more plays to go to the middle of the field. And Hurts looked really, really good at them every time he did them, as he always has. So it was a weird one. I'll show a couple of examples. Let's start with play 5 of my film thread. I'll show just 2 examples, but I wonder if it's more of a broader theme that we'll see more in future weeks. So here they're running a simple, I think it's a post-cross concept, where they're sending, is it Dotson on the post, as they often do, just to get rid of him, and then using Devontae Smith to actually be the guy they want to target on the crossing route. And Devontae Smith's the guy I'm going to talk about in my third point, but I won't talk about him now. This whole play is designed to go to the middle of the field. So it is deliberately designed to target the middle of the field. And guess what? Hurts reads it perfectly. How good's play action? I think you're going to talk about play action separately, aren't you?
I am, but not necessarily in a good way.
Don't worry. We don't need to go into huge detail. It's pretty obvious. When you run the ball well, it's not rocket science. Linebackers jump up, and then you have a chance to throw in behind them. Also, sequencing-wise, what I love about this play is you see Cameron Latu in the backfield. He actually the Eagles ran twice in the same game before this, and Cameron Latu blocked from this exact look. So the Giants are convinced this is a running play. Instead, it's a passing play. But once again, just look how accurate Hurts is. Drop, in time, bang, rhythm, ball out. Couldn't be better. He doesn't seem to have a problem like Tua, who came out recently and literally said, I can't see over my guys, so I can't throw to them, which is always great when your quarterback does that. He seems to really throw well to them in the field whenever he does it. And he did it once more as well, play 8, which is probably my favourite play of the game because I love anything double post related. I went back and forth on what you might call this. I did wonder if it was a double cross, but I've looked at a couple of playbooks, nerdy stuff, and went to a few people like Honest NFL to look at some old playbooks, and there was they would design this as double post because it is basically, it's just a bit of a weird post route by Darius Cooper. I think it is at the bottom, or whoever it is. But essentially, once again, what is the aim of this? The aim is to hit Devontae Smith in the middle of the field. And I love this concept. There are so many fun things about it because you get Grant Calcaterra releasing through the A gap. I think he's meant to go through the C gap, but I don't really care or know. Barkley's running the other direction. And we talk about, Shane, about full field concepts that really stretch your defense out. Just pause that. Don't delete your drawings. If you're a defensive coordinator, you're thinking, whenever you think about that play, I've got to cover both flats. I've got to cover the middle of the field. I've got to cover the deep vertical. You've basically covered everywhere. The only thing you might nitpick is maybe rather than double post, you could run a go route from the outside and then stress them vertically. You imagine that's AJ Brown on the left now. Then if that safety doesn't help, you've got a one-on-one shot. But basically, once again, this is a wonderful concept, but where do you really want to hit it? You want to hit the middle of the field. And guess what Hurts does once again? He hits it perfectly. So I wanted to talk about that being something I just don't see on the film, Hurts being reluctant to pull the trigger on concepts when guys are open that often. They just don't run many concepts where he's meant to throw it centrally. And when they do, he seems to be really good at it and really accurate, and he throws in good rhythm and good time. So it's one of those things that with the last couple of weeks, AJ Brown's dropped a few in the middle of the field, and I think he's been really good at throwing balls like slightly behind the player, like just very clever about his ball location. I think it's an underutilized element of the Eagles offense, and I think they should do this stuff more, and I hope that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And my last point kind of ties in a little bit because I want to talk about throwing from jumbo. And so the Eagles ran jumbo plays. I think it was 10 or 11 plays in this game, which jumbo is pretty much what we call anything that has an extra tight end on, or excuse me, an extra offensive lineman on the field. So the Eagles called 8 run plays from jumbo. And you can't only run from it, you need to also pass from it sometimes if you're going to do it. And so the Eagles tried to throw from jumbo in this game, and it just didn't work very well. Both plays resulted, or one resulted in a sack, the other resulted in Hurts getting hit while he was throwing. And so I want to talk about what's going wrong with their jumbo passing plays. And so first up, I've got a split screen here of a Packers under center play action and an Eagles under center play action. And I've got these set to go at quarter speed. And so I just want you to watch the difference in the offensive line movement. So let's watch the Eagles on the right side first. Just notice at the snap, everybody's moving backwards, right? We're all moving backwards. We're pass setting. The only guy that really moves forward is Lane Johnson. And so when we pause it right here, and I put a red line where the line of scrimmage is, Lane Johnson's the only guy at the line of scrimmage, and there's only one other guy that's even really close. So everybody's moving backwards. Nobody's moving forwards to really sell this. When you compare that with like the Packers, watch their offensive line fire out like they're running here. We got guys moving forwards. We've got guys moving sideways. Nobody is pass setting here. Everybody, this looks like we're actually running the ball towards the bottom of the screen, right? And we freeze it right there, and you can see they've got 4 of their 5 guys within like a half a yard of the line of scrimmage, where the Eagles only really have 1 or 2. And so you do need to be able to sell it from an offensive line standpoint a little better than the Eagles did. And I'll zoom out and show this whole play now, and you can see the linebackers for the Giants don't even react. Like, watch where they're starting and where they end up after the play fake. It doesn't influence them at all. Not even a little bit. And then you have like the routes that go along with it. We've got like a deep stop route here, and I guess a dig route that kind of gets thrown off. And so, like, even if this worked and the linebackers really bit down, we're running a one-on-one route here, and the route we really want to throw is a dig that's going to be running into a middle of a field safety. And so the route concepts on this one aren't very good. The O-line doesn't sell it. It doesn't help that you're doing it on 2nd and 11, which isn't a great down and distance to do it either. It probably also doesn't help that if you look at Saquon Barkley at the snap, he doesn't look like a guy that is actually going to get a ball here. He's standing straight up. He's pointing off to the side. Like, look at this. If I'm a defensive lineman, I'm not thinking this is a run play, right? It doesn't even look like it. And so then they do one other in this game. And on this one could work. I think the O-line does a better job here. And the linebackers, if you watch the linebackers, they are going to get sucked in. But the route concept is really bad. Because what they're going to do is they're going to run Dallas Goedert on like a stop route here. And then they're going to run Devontae Smith on a post route. Well, there's nothing to conflict this middle of field safety. You're just running a post route at him. And so if we watch this play out, like Devontae gets inside of his guy. You see the linebackers get sucked up here. Devontae's inside of his guy, but he's just running a post route right into an unconflicted safety. And so...
Shane, just quickly, can I add on why I don't like this play? And I mentioned this in the Bleeding Green article.
Yeah.
They're in jumbo personnel and 2 tight ends. I think that's almost overkill. Like, yeah. I think on 1st and 10, if you're going to run the ball, fine. But if you're going to try play action, I think 1st and 10, not with like 4 minutes left in the game, like a proper like 15 minutes left. You got one receiver on the field. There's only so much you can do from a play action point of view. If that one guy comes open down the field, you're a genius. Don't get me wrong. If Devontae Smith runs a go route and you throw it to him because you faked the play action so well, brilliant. But if you're going to run like a post cross or post stop combo, you just haven't got any juice on the field. I prefer throwing from jumbo with 2 receivers rather than 1 receiver because I think it's hard from that personnel to throw down the field.
Yeah, and it's impossible with the route concepts they dial up here. Like, at least if you put, like, Goddard on a post route, too, like post cross or something. Because, I mean, Devontae gets inside. Like, imagine right here, he's breaking across the field here. There's going to be a place you can throw this football. And so, just you need to be able to throw some from jumbo if you're going to make it a large part of your running game. And that's why the Eagles couldn't in this game. So, I like the attempt. Definitely some stuff that they need to clean up there.
Yep, and I'll bring us home very quickly because we've taken too long on the offense, but that's how we roll. Right, I'll finish up just by saying I thought Devontae Smith was unbelievable in this game. And you know me, I've always been AJ Brown 1A, Devontae Smith 1B, and I still think that's the case. I think Brown is better than Smith, and I think for those that's posting like Smith's numbers the past few weeks, I would just say watch who covers Devontae Smith and AJ Brown when they're both out there. And teams will often put their best corner on AJ Brown if they're going to play like that because that's what defensive coordinators see as the best as well. But as a route runner, he is unbelievably good. I've already shown the middle of the field stuff. So let me just show 2 routes in this game and also really good throws by Hurts as well. First one is play 9 on my film, Fred Shame. This is a really good ball by Hurts, and I think it's the progression of Hurts we speak about, being able to play in rhythm, in timing, under pressure. Just a straight comeback. Devontae Smith just cooks the outside cornerback, like just completely and utterly roasts him on the outside. Just one-on-one, isolate your receiver. Really good ball by Hurts, under pressure. If you actually look at this again from Hurts' perspective, it's not an easy throw because there's a guy bearing down on him. But the route is just so good, and I thought Devontae was almost like effortless how easily he won at times in this game. Like, the way he cut, he's literally stop-start. But I think the best of the best of the best was play 15.
Hold on, before we go to that one.
Sorry, go, yep.
Let me just mention, because this was the point that didn't make it on the cutting room floor. I wanted to mention that stunts against the left tackle, left guard continue to be a really big issue for this team.
Yep.
And I thought it was Mailata and Toth just not having played together. But multiple times in this game, including this one, a stunt beat Mailata and Dickerson immediately.
Yeah,
and so really I didn't end up showing that, but there's 3 or 4 of them I could have shown. So
yeah, it's a good shout, and it's something they've struggled with a lot in general. Right, play 15. Just everyone's already seen Jahan Dotson produce his Randy Moss catch, which was ironic because I thought it was Dotson's worst game of the year. But anyway, just watch Devontae Smith at the bottom of this field. I mean, I know the Giants suck at corner, and I know they have no talent on the outside. And I know this looks like me trying to cover him. But if you just ignore the cornerback, just ignore him, just watch how quickly Devontae Smith gets in and out of his break. Like, that is absurd. If you don't press him, and again, why he's a 1B, because I don't want him on the line of scrimmage as an X. Even in this game, he was not often, because you want him to have that 3-4 yards of release at the start, because when he gets going, it's basically impossible to stop one-on-one. The only chance you've got is getting physical with him at the line of scrimmage, because that is a it's a ridiculously good route. So I wanted to end by giving him his flowers. An exceptionally good player, had an exceptional game. And yeah, the offense in general was a joy to watch this week, which we have not been able to say that very often this year.
We have not, for sure. So a lot of good stuff there on the offense. But now we're going to transition over to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll be a little briefer here. But again, feels like there was a lot more to talk about offensively. Defensively, I'll lead us off. My first point, I don't have film for.
Sorry, Shane, shall we just talk about very, very briefly why I hate the trade the Eagles have just made without watching the player once? So,
because he's a slot.
I basically just think everyone's getting carried away. Like, everyone's like, oh, DeJean's going outside. Like, I don't think they're moving Cooper DeJean outside because they've just added someone called Michael Carter. Like, he was a good start in 2024. He maybe won't be, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. I'm going to watch him tomorrow. Maybe I'll go, God, he's so good. They're definitely going to play him.
Watch his 2023 film.
That was when he was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the Jets traded Michael Carter, which is a cornerback, and a 2027 7th rounder to the Eagles for John Mechie and a 2027 6th rounder. So the Eagles got rid of a guy they're not using at all and traded a 6th rounder for a 7th rounder, and they pick up Michael Carter Jr. And I'll just mention Michael Carter briefly. In 2023, Michael Carter Jr. was a phenomenal player for the Jets. Mark and I on Chalk Talk do an exercise every summer where we do an expansion draft and we establish protected players on a team. And we got killed by Jets fans for not protecting Michael Carter Jr., choosing him as one of their protected players that year. And we drafted him onto our expansion team because he was such a good player. Now, in 2024, he had a back injury that cost him 2/3 of the season. I think he dealt with a concussion earlier this year, and he hasn't played much, and when he hasn't played well over the last 2 seasons. But if you want to see good Michael Carter, to try to sell you on this, Johnny, go watch him in 2023 because he was
will
awesome.
Go and watch him. I would just point out that I think Fangio's defense is so communication-based and so much about rhythm and reps. The idea you can just take a guy off the street this week and go, right, you're playing slot next week. I don't see it personally. I struggle to believe he'll be that much better in the slot that it will be like, oh my goodness, it's worth moving DeJean outside. And do I have DeJean as a point this week? If I don't, I should. Bad job by me. I don't, which is annoying because you falsely accuse him of not being as good in the run game this year, which is actually true because he hasn't been this year. But he was unbelievably
You literally just
good
said you falsely accused him of this, but it was true.
Yep.
I just want to make sure you caught that.
Just watch his play in the run game this week. We're not even talking about it. Read the Bleeding Green article. He was unbelievably good against the run this week. Like, I don't get it. Maybe they will move him outside. Maybe he'll be amazing. He will be because he is amazing. And I'll be wrong. I assume it's just to give him an option. I think it's just giving him an
Michael
option.
Carter will not play outside cornerback. The Jets list him at 5'11", 184. He was 5'9" at the combine, and I highly doubt he's grown 2 inches since the combine. So he is not tall. He is 8th percentile height, 10th percentile weight. If he's on the field, it's going to be as a slot cornerback. And so I don't know that means they're going to move DeJean outside, but I do like the move because you gave nothing. You gave up a player you weren't going to play for him. And it just, even if the whole thing is he's just Cooper DeJean getting injured insurance, I think it's worth it at that point. So I like the trade.
The trade's nothing in terms of cost.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. The cost is irrelevant.
And I would not be surprised if they experiment with putting him on the field some, especially if Ringo/Jackson really struggles down the stretch. Yeah.
Right. We've got to be quicker now because we spent time talking about that. So I'll even make that one. I'll make that my first point because, in all honesty, I got 2 things I want to talk about this week's show. My first point is going to be Michael Carter. Poor Moro Jomo. He played well. There you go. That's my point 1B. Start off with your first point on defense.
All right. Well, my first point, I just wanted to talk about Nakobe Dean and Jahad Campbell's usage. And I don't have film for this, but in nickel defense this week, Jahad Campbell was on the field for 11 snaps of nickel, and Nakobe Dean was on the field for 23 snaps of nickel. And our friend Dennis Selman pointed out that the Giants had a 9% success rate when Campbell was on the field in nickel, and a 39% success rate when Dean was on the field in nickel. Now, that's a small sample size, and we're not going to read too much into that. But all I want to say is that, again, Campbell was the odds-on favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was playing well. He was making strides as a run defender, which I think was his weakness. He is a better player in coverage than Nakobe Dean is, and he's not as good in run defense. But there's sometimes, like, the wheel route that Nakobe Dean gave up was a 3rd and long, and you've got Nakobe Dean on the field instead of Jahad Campbell. You had Jordan Davis on the field instead of, like, Moro Ojimo, and I don't understand a little bit of the personnel usage there. But my overall point is just that Jahad Campbell averaged 62 snaps per game coming into this game, and he only played 21 snaps. And coming into this game, 70% of his snaps were at off-ball linebacker, and in this game, only 48% of those came at off-ball linebacker. Now, I understand they're very thin at edge. Brandon Graham didn't play this week. Nolan Smith is still hurt. Azeez Ojulari is still hurt. And so if it was like, hey, we had to put somebody at edge, so we just put him at edge, for a 1 week thing, okay. But they didn't even play him that much. So it wasn't like they played him at edge a lot. They just didn't play him much. And so my concern is about Jahad Campbell and his development. And I know, like, you have to balance putting your best player on the field with future development. I just don't think overall Dean is that much better than Campbell. And so I'm curious to see how they flesh this out, what they do with it. You know, the whole annoying thing from the draft about they're going to develop him as an edge rusher is coming back up. He's not an edge. He's not. I had somebody arguing with me online. It was like he played edge at Alabama. 11% of his snaps at Alabama over his 3-year career came at edge. He is not an edge.
No.
Asking him to develop as an edge is doing him a disservice. And so,
and Fangio agrees with you. Just watch any Fangio press conference.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with you. I thought their usage was sort of crazy in this game in some ways. I didn't love it, if I'm honest. He's just not an edge. He's not rushing the quarterback. He rushed the quarterback like 3 times this week and like 3 times last week. He is not an edge rusher. I agree with you. If it's something they do long term, and I hate it if it's the rest of the year, I think it's just a couple of weeks things. And when Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham are here, we will not speak of it ever again. Yeah. I think it's just a short term thing.
That's my hope as well.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's like you. That's what I hope, because it's just not. It's not beneficial. Right? Can I get into my first point?
Yes.
Literally just play one of my film, Fred. I want to show a single play. So sometimes I think one play can show you, and if you pause it pre-snap, actually, that'd be perfect. One play can show you everything that sums up why a defense is so successful. Fangio has made a living out of running a variety of coverages, and a bit like my run game point from earlier on, you don't need to run many. You need to run a few and make them all look the same. The Eagles, this is the most standard Eagles look you'll see in the secondary. 2 deep safeties, both corners in line with each other. If I was to ask you here, like, what are the corners going to play the same technique? You'd probably go, yeah, but they literally look identical. If I was to ask you, are the safeties going to play the same technique? You'd go, yeah, because look how similar they look. If you're a quarterback pre-snap, Shane, what tell have you got between whether this is cover 4, cover 6, cover 8, or even a rotation into cover 3? There is no tell at all, in the slightest. And what the Eagles played a lot of last week was quarters. And when they played quarters, they got killed with outbreaking routes. So I complain that teams were finding it too easy, because if you just very quickly, Shane, just imagine these 4 defensive backs are going back into quarters coverage. If you just run your outside receiver on a go route, your inside receiver on a slot, they're basically open like 99% of the time. And that happened a lot last week. Fangio looks like he's playing quarters, but he's not. He's actually playing quarter half. Easiest rotation in the world. It just means the top 2 at the top of the screen are running quarters technique, which means they're playing cover 4 technique, but on this side of the field, they're running half technique, which means Cooper DeJean, almost like a trap 2 coverage that you sometimes see teams run with cover 2, where it looks like cover 4, but it's cover 2. It just means that Cooper DeJean is sitting there, and I love watching Jackson Dart's brain fully. And do you know what? Fair play to him for not throwing it, because processing-wise, he's like, I've got it, here we go. And he's like, oh no. He just spots it. Now, if he was really good, he could have risked that deep shot in that whole shot, but that would have been a hell of a throw, because I think the safety is actually in a pretty good position. Cooper DeJean is just waiting for this ball. He's going to light him up, or he's going to pick 6 it, depending on where the ball goes. And it's just such a beautiful play. When people ask me, why is Fangio's defense so hard to throw on? Because when it's communicated well, when everyone's in sync, it is so hard to read, because everything looks the same. There is no way you can tell this is cover 6 or quarter half, basically until a second after the snap. You might be able to guess if I'm a really good quarterback. I might be looking at the G now and thinking, but it's hard, man. It's so hard. DeJean plays it perfectly, where you're not really sure until you throw it where he's going. And by this point, a great quarterback will get to their 3rd and full 3. Dart's like, screw this. My brain has got no idea what I'm doing. Tuck it, run, go. And I don't blame him in the slightest. So I wanted to show one play. It's a great example. There's a few plays in this game, actually, where they disguise coverage really well. But that one stood out as, firstly, if you don't know what quarter half is, or cover 6, you do now. But secondly, just as a way of showing why Fangio's defense is so hard to throw against when it's in sync.
I have thrown so many pick 6s for that exact reason. Playing Madden, it's not even funny. But
Yep.
we're not
The
here
dream.
to litigate my Madden career. So let's keep rolling here. I'm actually going to start with that exact same play that you just showed because I want to talk about Jalix Hunt. Jalix Hunt had a really good statistical game here. He had 1 sack, 9 pressures on 22 pass rushes. His previous high was 5 pressures. And I think he had a good game. But I don't think he had the game some people think he did because he doesn't really like win very often so much as he's high effort and he plays smart. And so on this play you just showed, I've got the back view here, but he's going to rush upfield and he realizes like, oh, I am past the quarterback. And he works back to the quarterback and pursues him on the scramble. And that one becomes a tackle. I think it was a 1 yard gain, so he doesn't get the sack here. This is one of his better plays, I think. He's going to bull rush against Jermaine Illuminor, who is not a good tackle. But he bull rushes him back into the pocket, and then he's going to disengage and pursue Jackson Dart. So it's a good bull rush back into the pocket, disengages, and then unfortunately misses the sack. And the Eagles did a lot of that in this game. But again, that's probably one of his better rush reps on the day, I think. On this next play, just really good effort pursuing backside. Like he's got to make sure Jackson Dart doesn't bootleg out of here. And then once he realizes he doesn't, he goes and makes the tackle. So that's a good effort play. And his effort is never lacking. This is another one where he's going to work back to the quarterback from the left side of the screen here. And so again, he rushes pretty deep. And he sees, oh, Josh Uche rushed really deep and there's nobody here. And he works back and he gets the sack here. And so that's a really good play. I thought he did a really good job against Dart's scrambling ability, just keeping him contained. So I wanted to shout out Jalix Hunt, who I think played a good game. I don't think he played as good of a game as people that look at the stats on NFL Pro or PFF think that he played. But
that next-gen stats tweet wrecked people's brains.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I feel bad, man. I don't want to be the guy that's like, I like Jalix Hunt. He seems like an awesome dude. His mum commented on our podcast last year. But, oh my goodness, have you ever seen a performance where the stats don't back the performance in the same way?
Yeah.
I can't think of one. I read the next-gen stats tweet, like 9 pressures on 22 pass reps. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm watching it and I'm like,
pressures are sometimes a QB
just
stat.
looked fine. He just looked like he has before.
Yeah, he's
sort of mental.
He is a very smart player with a lot of awareness, and he's a hard worker. But he wasn't necessarily lighting up tackles in this game.
No, right. I'll get to my final point. And we've already done Michael Carter. Twitter's going mad about it. Lots of good tweets coming out. People like James Palmer saying they're not moving the gene to the outside. It's just depth. So I did read someone saying that Parry Nickerson was cut. I'm trying to find out if that's true.
That is true.
If that is true, then there you go. Maybe the Eagles want to run more dime as well. So he's your new... Because you can obviously play 2 slot quarterbacks if you play more dime as well. But there you go. Right, I want to finish with
Johnny,
pass
we
rush.
Can't even figure out what to do with our 2 linebackers in nickel. Can you imagine only having one?
One, yeah. At least
they're just like we don't know if we should play Nakobe Dean or Jihad Campbell, so we're just gonna not play either one.
Yeah. So first of all, let's get into Brandon Thorne. If you don't subscribe to his Substack, you should. It's awesome. He does something called a true sack report. And long story short, the Eagles pass rushers suck at getting sacks this year. And I won't read every single number. I shared them on Discord earlier on. But to give you the very, very basic summary, he does a top 51 sack score. There is 1 Eagles defender in it, a Jomo at 46. It's not great, I would say, if you want to win a Super Bowl, having one of the top 51 players in overall sack score at all. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea of pass rush versus secondary in this week, because the Eagles got 5 sacks, but I'm convinced it was because of the secondary and not because of the pass rush themselves. And I didn't think the pass rush was particularly good in general. And actually, when you go back and watch the game, and I was glad Fangio said it, it's one of the things I like about Fangio a lot, is that he's very honest. In his analysis, there was a lot of plays where I just didn't feel like the pass rush got home, and the secondary basically bowed them out. I've already shown the quarter half one, which is one example. The pass rush doesn't get home, and the secondary works. But I've got a couple of others to show as well. Let's start as I go through my go through my film. But let's just start with play 6. And I'll just show a couple of examples of what I mean, I guess. Where this is a 3rd and long. So this is 4 down linemen, send them, go. Don't worry about a run play, just get after the quarterback, get up the field. And when you are about to hit play, Shane, you'll just see there isn't a great amount of juice from the 4 pass rushers. Like, that's a pretty nice NFL pocket, and Quinion does a really good job in coverage of Darius Slayton down the field. I watched that play a few times, and I was like, there's just not a great deal of collapse. But I think the best example is play 7. And I think this is an awesome play, because this is also an example of why, when you're learning how to play Madden and someone says, what you do is pre-snap, you send the guy in motion, because if he follows him, they're in man. And if he doesn't, they're in zone. Jackson Dart's been playing too much Madden because his brain is all over the place here, because the Eagles don't follow the motion man. Therefore, he predicts zone, but they're actually running man. And this is a great example, by the way, of why you trust both your safeties. I'm assuming it would have been Makuba, possibly in man coverage. Instead, he runs across the other field, so Blankenship takes him in coverage, and the Eagles are comfortable having Blankenship do that. And by the way, Blankenship doesn't win. The guy's open, but Dart's brain is so frazzled that he doesn't throw it because he doesn't know what he's seeing. Now, the Eagles get a sack. What a great play. Jalen Carter gets a sack. But this is where Brandon Thorne would not call this a high-quality sack. This is a pretty dreadful pass rush, and Dart has all day to get this ball out, and it's a bad sack to take. And this happened quite a lot. There were quite a lot of good examples where the pass rush didn't get home, and the secondary basically bailed them out. So I want to talk about this idea of everyone coming away going, we've got 5 sacks. Pass rush is brilliant. I felt like that wasn't the case. I was disappointed with the pass rush overall, and I think it was the secondary that was the major reason why the Eagles had 5 sacks in this game. And I don't think that's a surprise, because the Giants' second receivers suck, and I did not expect them to have any success. This is the exact game I expected them to have 2 weeks ago. So I'll finish my final point this week by mentioning that I think it was the secondary rather than the pass rush.
Yeah, that was like an 8.5 second time to sack right there.
Yeah, that's not going to be Brandon Thorne's high-quality sack, is it?
You know you're facing a scrambling quarterback that just runs into sacks when he has 5 sacks for 14 yards or whatever it was as well. But okay, let's go to my final point. I'll bring us home talking about Zach Bond, the Bald Eagle. Had an awesome game, I thought, in this one. Did some really good stuff. I just want to show a few plays, just kind of the diversity of his game. This first one, he's following a motion man, and I have no idea why they would try to run a screen pass and just not block Zach Bond, but they do, and it ends really poorly for them. Like, what are they thinking? I have no idea. That's just poor offense, but Zach Bond is all over it. But here, this is 84 was so tired of him by the end of the game. Watch right here. He's going to trigger downhill, takes on this tight end, just throws him to the side, and goes and makes the tackle in the hole. This is a really good rep. Nakobe Dean can't really make this rep very well. Nakobe Dean has to get those run-throughs, but Zach Bond is able to take on blocks and shed them and continue to work. This is a really good coverage rep. He's down here kind of lined up as a slot, and watch him take away 3 receivers on this play. So he jams the first guy, knocks him off route, and then he sinks under the slant, and then he comes down to the running back. And then he just follows the running back because, again, we can't get sacks when guys are open. But that's such a good play by him. Literally takes away 3 guys all in one play. Here's another example of him taking on an offensive lineman this time, and he disengages and goes and gets in on a tackle. And then the final one I wanted to show, they have run a play like this before, where they went 4 strong with a running back in the backfield, and they tried to run a little screen, and it worked the first time. You don't get to run the same screen against Zach Bond twice. Look at how quickly he triggers out to, like, this is a screen pass all the way, and Jackson Dart can't even throw it because Bond is full speed sprinting at the snap, and Dart ends up just having to throw it away. And so Zach Bond is such an incredible player. I know we talked about last year how he absolutely must be re-signed. and I'm so glad that we get to continue to watch him play football at such a high level.
Can you imagine if we didn't? My brain would be in, especially with Jalen Carter not being Jalen Carter this year. I think the best three defenders have quite obviously been Bourne, Cooper, and Quinion, and there can be almost no debate around that. Yeah, wow, we've done it in under an hour, Shane, with 2 lots of breaking news. The Krabby breaking news, and then obviously the lesser important breaking news, which was the signing of a hopefully non-starting nickel cornerback before I lose my mind. If anyone wants to watch a film review of Michael Carter, I will do it tomorrow in Patreon. So if you want to sign up for the Sideline Pass and watch a film review, you can have a look at Michael Carter tomorrow, and you can watch me just say really bad things about him to make it clear that Cooper DeJean should stay in the nickel. I'm just kidding. I'll, of course, evaluate what I see. So, yeah. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, if you evaluate him with your Cooper DeJean bias aside, you're going to like Michael Carter's 2023 film.
2023 film. I've got to go back that far. It's always good when you sign a player in October of 25. You have to go back to his 23 film.
Listen, Johnny,
who else was good
hurt.
in 2023? Someone in the chat. Give me someone who was good in 2023.
He's been hurt. He's healthy. Maybe.
Who
probably
was good
not.
in 23? Now I'm trying to think of someone who's terrible now and was good in 23.
Trevor Lawrence was he? Oh no, wait, he hasn't ever been good
No,
in
he's
the
always been
NFL.
bad. Well, debatable.
That's not true. He did have that one
QB.
stretch.
Top 10 QB, Shane.
Geno Smith was good in 2023.
He was. Massive downgrade when the Seahawks traded him away.
Yeah.
On other final thoughts news, they've just announced that Terry McLaurin has re-injured his quad and is out on Sunday. Oh. So things are going extremely well for Washington this year. Who saw the old team going into the season struggling? Who saw that coming? Not me, clearly.
Everyone that's not in Washington. But to be fair, Terry McLaurin's not that old. It's the young guys getting hurt that's killing him. I guess, wow, Terry McLaurin's 30?
He's 30, man.
Okay, he's old.
Yeah, he's their their franchise cornerstone. He's 30 years old. They're all old.
Jaden Daniels, however, getting injured twice. That's
I thought it was
bad luck for them.
Personally, tier 1 QB, Jaden Daniels. Better than everyone, Jaden Daniels. Let's get out of here before we just moan about the Ringers QB rankings for another 10 minutes.
All right. Well, that is going to do it, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this episode of On the Shane Page, the episode that almost wasn't. Certainly appreciate you guys that are here in the live chat. We will have the edited video up on Patreon later. The audio will hit the podcast feed later this afternoon as well. And there'll be, like I said, lots of other stuff going into the Patreon. So come check us out at patreon.com/Eagles Film Room. That supports this show, and it lets us do so much more other content that you guys can check out over there. Grab a free 1-week trial of any tier, and we really think that you will enjoy it. So let's get out of here. We will catch you guys next week for some show that is not a film show because there is no game this weekend. But you guys enjoy the Eagles free weekend, and we will be back next week for a mailbag and maybe some other fun surprises.